That was a resolution that focuses on Michigan's, or in the country's for that matter, but Michigan's urgent need to end the hijacking of our elections by both big and dark money. And I was planning to introduce you all, but well, actually you said hi to each other, but I do think with Sheila being from way out of town, we probably ought to go around real quickly. We've got Emily Stivers. She is from District 11 of the Ingham County Board and is my commissioner. And she did a great job of steering this thing through the Ingham County Board. I'm just going to go around my screen. The next is Kara Hope. Kara is a Michigan House of Representative from the Lansing area. Below her on my screen, but at any rate, is Representative Julie Brixey, who's another representative in Michigan's House here from the Lansing area. Sheila Simpson is one of my folks, or one of us in MiFTE, who hangs out in Gaylord, Michigan. And Callie Fox is representing Senator Stabenow. And we have a gentleman from WLNS who's joined us. I know his first name's Dan. Dan, I don't know your last name. You want to share it so we can know who you were when you were here? Your microphone is on at the moment, by the way. And so he's now fumbling with, oh God, how do I turn that thing off? And just like we all do, when he finally finds his microphone button, you can let us know. Any rate, I know all of you are busy people, and I thank you for taking time to joining us on this little celebration. One of the things that I should probably point out is for members of the media, you can create questions at any time using the Q&A function, which if you've never been on a Zoom before, and as a person in the media, I suspect that can't be possible. But if this particular tool is new to you, pick the chat button. It will bring up the window to the right on your screen, and you can enter in a question. And if you pick everyone, we can all see it, and we will address those at the end of our prepared remarks. This event is being recorded and will be available later for public viewing, either through our website or through our site on YouTube. Okay, so some very brief comments about MiFTE. We're a grassroots civic organization. Since 2018, we've been concerned, and each year just get more concerned about the ever-growing tsunami of money and its related corruption in our election and our politics. So one of the things we're very concerned about is getting reasonable limits restored on election spending, as well as for the first time getting to the point where we can actually have transparent money on both, well, transparency on both our money and our messaging. We are very nonpartisan about our activities and policies. We are registered 501c3 as a 501c4 as well, and are also a registered ballot committee with the Michigan Bureau of Elections, because we have in fact drafted a measure to deal with transparency if we need to get that far. We are the organization working with other statewide groups across the state that is driving this resolution program that Emily has so kindly responded to. In terms of the local resolution campaign itself, its purpose really is to give voice to the overwhelming majority of our citizens that are demanding an end to the domination of money over our elections and our politics. Why do I say overriding majority? Because it's true. All surveys tend to show 70+% of people, even Republicans, are saying something's got to be done about money in our elections. We're also doing this to try and motivate elected representatives at the federal or the state level to produce the needed amendments and statutes to end the plague of money in our politics. In the case of the putting limits on money, the action of the U.S. Supreme Court starting with Buckley versus Vallejo in '74, coming right up through, I think, 2014 with the McCutcheon decision, kept pulling the lids off of money. And so the Supreme Court basically has to be told what the law is. I'm very pleased to announce that Ingham County is our first jurisdiction to pass a resolution on this topic. It's now my pleasure to introduce Emily Stivers. As I've said before, she's championed our resolution to a unanimous approval. Thank you very much. And from all of us at MiFTE, many thanks to you, Emily, for your leadership on this effort. So at this point, I'm going to turn it over to you to share your thoughts with us about all of that and have you lead the comments of our guests.
Thank you so much, Mr. Mayers, for your incredible leadership on this important issue. Your dedication and persistence is badly needed in politics today. And we appreciate all the advocacy work that you and your team at MiFTE have done to make a difference. This is the kind of citizen engagement that is really exciting to a lot of us as elected leaders, to see someone who's passionate about an issue that maybe isn't as fancy as some of the things that get attention in the news every day. But the foundation of our representative democracy is free, fair, and credible elections. And it has been my honor to introduce, and as chair of the County Services Committee, usher through the passage of Ingham County's resolution supporting the Federal For the People Act, which changes campaign finance laws to reduce the influence of money in politics. Our resolution passed first the County Services Committee and then subsequently the full Ingham County Board of Commissioners with unanimous support, including the yes votes of our 3 Republican commissioners, proving that getting dark money out of politics is truly a nonpartisan issue. Election finances from individuals, corporations, and nonprofits should be fully and transparently disclosed, clear, and accessible to the people we represent. With this resolution, the Ingham County Board of Commissioners urges our fellow elected leaders at the state and federal levels to enable and pass legislation making such disclosure part of Michigan and U.S. law. It is my pleasure to have our Lansing representatives here to illustrate their conviction that action is needed now on this important issue. And my sincere hope is that both Lansing and DC will take these critical steps that we've recommended towards removing dark money from politics. I'd now like to introduce my dear friend and mentor, Michigan Representative Julie Brixey, who is very experienced in the issues of free and fair elections. Julie? Julie, you're on mute.
Okay, how many times a day do we say that to each other? Thank you so much, Commissioner Stivers. I appreciate being able to be here today and talk about this important issue. You know, Bill, the elections have really changed over the past few decades, and there is a built-in cycle of growth in election money. The increases that we're seeing cycle after cycle, they're totally staggering. We're now seeing in the House $2 to $3 million being spent in the most competitive House races here in Michigan. And that's nearly double what was spent between 10 and 15 years ago. And the rate of growth in election money is escalating. Over the past several decades, over the past several cycles, we've seen investments in these most competitive seats increase 20 to 35%, which obviously compounds itself very quickly. Election money is also becoming more and more dark. The identities of the donors are hidden, and much of the increase that we're seeing in political spending is the dark money that has been allowed to proliferate under the Citizens United Supreme Court decision. So these dark money entities don't have to reveal their donors, accept unlimited corporate donations, and they do not have to disclose anything, which is just something that's really, I think, fundamentally at odds with our democracy and the way that most people want to see elections be run. Voters have a very basic right to know who is behind campaign messages. The primary reason we're seeing these staggering increases in political spending is the anonymity and the ability for corporations to donate. Prior to this, donors had to be individuals, and this was a huge distinction and something very different than what we have today. I think part of the other problem that we're seeing, especially here in Michigan on the Republican side of the aisle, is that as the top 1% of people with wealth in the country have expended their wealth, their influence in elections has been really profound. We see a handful of billionaires who basically throw their weight around and get behind selecting people that they want in the Michigan legislature and purchasing those seats. So this is something that really needs to be changed.
Thank you. Back to you, Emily.
Thank you so much, Representative Rixey. It's now my pleasure to turn the microphone over, just not literally, unfortunately, but to our 67th District Representative, Representative Kara Hope. Thanks, Kara.
Thanks, Emily. And to follow up on what Julie said, dark money has begun to dominate Michigan's elections. In fact, the 2018 governor's race, for the very first time, dark money sources were the single largest class of money in that race. Not only does it give certain donors outsized influence, dark money also poses a security threat to our country. Recent investigations at the federal level have confirmed that foreign adversaries have been and are currently funding money to our elections and political campaigns via organizations that don't have to report their donors. Of course, we mentioned the infamous Citizens United decision already. That's when the court decided that corporations and other groups are persons with individual rights. So First Amendment rights, and money is speech. So it just poured fuel on the fire of dark money. And here in Michigan, I wanted to mention that I had introduced House Bill 4367, which would require certain nonprofit groups, specifically 527 groups affiliated with Michigan candidates, to disclose who's funding them and how they're spending their money. I introduced this bill the previous term. It didn't get heard. Make of that what you will. It's intended to increase accountability of donors and candidates, and most importantly, to give voters the information they need to make an informed decision. A healthy democracy thrives when it's transparent to its citizens and free from the undue influence of special interest groups.
Thank you, Representative Hope. Back to you, Emily.
Thank you so much. I think we now have a spot for our representative from the 68th District, Sarah Anthony. She couldn't make it after all, it seems. Bummer. Okay. Well then, I would love to introduce our Mid-Michigan staff to Senator Debbie Stabenow. Callie Fox. You're on mute.
Microphone. I was on mute too, as you all noticed.
You know, I was on it and then I muted and then, anyway, you know, the senator served as both a member and the chairwoman of the Ingham County Board of Commissioners. And as a former member, she wants me to extend the congratulations on passing such an important resolution. She has been very involved in the influence of dark money in DC politics. Last fall, as the Republican majority rushed through the appointment of Justice Comey Barrett, the senator led a report through her Democratic Policy Committee chair hat that the report found that anonymously funded dark money groups have worked to tilt the balance of the judiciary in favor of special interests, denying workers, racial minorities, women, immigrants, and religious minorities equal justice under the law. And I think we are also seeing that throughout various states that have tried to shorten or lessen the ability of folks to vote. Sorry about that. She is on S1, which is the Senate version of HR1, which is the For the People Act, and its three main parts are election reform, which would increase voter access and voter security, campaign finance reform, which we're talking about today, and election ethics. And as I mentioned, she helped lead that report, and some of her comments back last fall were, it's time to stop the billionaires from using dark money to make it harder for people to vote. The bad news for them and Mitch McConnell is that the Democrats and Republicans across America support H.R. 1. It's time to pass it and keep the power in the hands of the voters. And then H.R. 1, makes it easier for Americans to vote and limits the influence of dark money from special interests in our elections. That's why Leader McConnell, remember this was last fall, has kept H.R. 1 in his legislative graveyard for over a year now. It's time he worked for the people. And great news is he's no longer Leader McConnell. We now have Leader Schumer, and I know he is eager, once we get through some of these American stimulus bills, to bring this up. The House has passed it, and now it's time for the Senate to do so as well.
Thank you, Callie. I think my microphone finally worked. There we go. All right.
That is great news. Thank you for sharing that with us. I think the other person we were hoping to have on was Ann Brown, staff to Congresswoman Slotkin.
Yep, and she has not knocked at the door. So,
All right.
Yep.
Well, thanks to each of you for taking time from your busy schedules to help us celebrate. Should we turn it over to Sheila for any comments at this time?
Sheila, you have any thoughts you want to add, as long as you're here?
I am just so profoundly happy that each of you women have taken on such leadership roles. As young women, our country, our state, our local areas need diversity, need perspective of your voices. And I'm thrilled that you are in the positions you are, with more positions I imagine will come because of your leadership. So thank you, each of you.
Okay.
And also thank you, Hank, because you are so persistent in a kind way. And it's a very solo trip often, because you're driving it, and there are those of us who are on the bus, and then we get off a little bit and then we get back on because of other priorities that we're dealing with. So I thank you for your leadership as well.
My pleasure. My pleasure. And the help that, by the way, for everyone's information, Sheila is one of my board members, and she has been a great help with a lot of stuff, not to mention she regularly gives me a pep talk about hang in there, because they're particularly this, the fall with the election, everybody's focus was making sure that disaster didn't happen. And after that, of course, we had a disaster we had to deal with, and now we're dealing with voter suppression. And so the kind of attention that we would normally expect, I mean, we poll like incredible with this issue, but we still have people going, well, yeah, soon I've got this other thing I'm working on. And we all pretty much know what that is. But this is a long pull. It takes things like working on the state level effort for transparency, because we can control that, at least so far, pending a potential Supreme Court decision over, I guess it's Becerra versus FEC, which is about the nonprofit privacy. And our view has always been that by tackling that in Michigan and actually making progress on an issue that most people feel pretty pessimistic about and figure you can't do anything about the money, which is not true, is to get us on a road to success that leads to what currently is the objective for ending the big money side, the objective being 26. So it's a pull it's going to take, waking everybody up, getting them to believe we can do this, and starting with victory on dark money here in Michigan, and moving on to being one of the early states to pass the 28th Amendment of the U.S. Constitution to let us do limits on our money. So, at any rate, I thank you all for your support. I know you're all involved to one way or another, either you as support to your representative or the person in charge. So, and hopefully you probably won't get dragged into too many more of these, but we expect to hold a lot more that involve different people. And so hopefully you will hear us slowly get the citizenry noisy about this, so that the duck and cover tendency of certain members of our representative class will stop ducking and covering. and face this issue. So that's where we're at. Thank you all very much for taking the time. And good luck on all of your endeavors, because I know you're all busy doing stuff. So go get them.
Thank
Thank
you. Thanks for your important work in this area. We need your help. Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Thanks all. Bye-bye.